Hello guys, and welcome back to Stylish Naija YouTube channel. So guys, in today's video I'm going to be showing you guys how to cut and sew this corset with a drape sleeve, so you can see. So at the end of the day, this was what I did. So I just placed it on my mannequin. It came out really fine. Yeah, so these are the materials I'm going to be making use of. So it's like a satin. Okay, it's a raw silk. Yeah, it's a raw silk material. So that's what I'm going to be making use of. And then in this tutorial we're going to be doing the pattern drafting, and then in the next tutorial we will do the sewing. So that was actually the finished dress. So I'm just placing down all of my measurements on my pattern paper, and then you can still see it on the screen. So the next thing, we are going to start drafting. So that's my bust point, my under bust, my waist, and then the full length. So the first thing now, so now let's slow down this video. We'll measure our shoulder measurement, divide by 2, and then you come down by 1 inch, and then you connect that line to the shoulder line. So that first line there is the shoulder line. So from that line you're going to measure your armhole, half of your armhole measurement. So you come down, so divide your own, use your own applicable measurements, and then you connect it this way. So firstly, what we're doing, we're drafting the back pattern. Okay, so after the back pattern we're going to use it to draft the front pattern. Please, if you find this video helpful, I will appreciate, please like this video. I would really appreciate that. Okay, so the next thing, I'm going to come to this line. So this line, that's my bust line. I'm going to mark half of my bust pan measurement, which is the nipple to nipple. So for this I'm making use of 4 inches, and then I'll connect that with a straight ruler. So you can see I'm connecting that with a straight ruler. The next thing, I'll just mark this line. So this line is going to serve as my chest line. Okay, so that's that armhole line. So the next thing, I want to take out a dart of 1 inch. So that 1 inch, I'm going to come to my waist line. I will take 1/2 inch to my right and then 1/2 inch to my left, and then I'll connect it to the bust line. So you can see the way I'm connecting it to the bust line, that's, you can actually come down by 2 inch or 1.5 inch, then you connect it, so you can just flow it. But whatever you do, make sure it does not take anything out from the bust line. Okay, so the next thing, now we're going to impute our bust circumference. So you divide your bust measurement into 4, you add your stitching allowance, and then add your dart. Okay, so you mark it that way. The next thing, you're going to come to your under bust measurement, that's your under bust line. Divide your under bust measurement by 4, add your stitching allowance, and then add your dart. You know the dart intake is actually 1 inch because this is a back pattern. So you do the same thing on the waist line, that's your waist measurement, and then you come to your hip line. So that's the, like, the hem of the blouse, of this corset blouse. Okay, so I'm just going to mark it that way, and then I'll add my stitching allowance, and then I'll connect all of those lines together. So like I said, this is just like drafting a basic bodice. Okay, so the next thing, I want to snatch a little bit. So what I'm going to do, I'll just divide that center of what I have between those two parts, and then I'll take out another extra 1 inch of that. So I just want to snatch it just with like 2 inches. That's, I'll take 1 inch to the front and then the 1 inch for the back piece. So the next thing, I came up by 1.5 inch and then mark it. I connected it. Why did I do that? I didn't want my neckline to be too low, so that's why I did that. So I'm taking out 2 inches from the edge of the zip allowance part. Why am I doing that? Because it is a corset. I want it to have that open at the back. So after that, I'm going to cut out every piece and then cut out that 2 inch. I'm not going to need it, and then label my pattern and then cut 1, 2, and 3 out. So this is what I will transfer into my fabric, and then I would cut out. Okay, so this is our back pattern. The next thing we're going to draft, now we're going to draft the front pattern. Okay, so I have my pattern paper again all laid out. I have my shoulder line, I have my bust line, under bust, waist, and then the hip line. Okay, so the next thing, now we are going to mark our shoulder measurement, divide by 2, and then I'll mark it. So now let's slow the video down again. and then I'll come down with for my half of my armhole measurement. I'll connect it, and then I'm using 8 inches actually, so that 8 inches is going to serve as my chest line, so that's why I ruled it straight. The next thing, I'll check half of what I have at that line. I'll come in by quarter of an inch, because this is a front pattern, so you need your armhole to be a little bit in more than the back piece. So I'll connect the line. Okay, the next thing I am going to do now, I want to take out our darts, which I'm using my bust pan. Okay, so I'm taking the 4 inches, just like we did with our back pattern. I'm just marking them across all of the lines. So like I said, please like this video, share it with your friends, your colleagues. Okay, so you connect the line together. So now I want to take out my dart, so I'm taking out 3 inches of that. So I'll come to the under bust line. I'll divide that dart into two. I'll take 1.5 to the right and then 1.5 to the left. Okay, so you can decide to take 2 inches to one side and 1 inch to one side. It still works fine. So the next thing, I'm just ruling those lines. I'm marking them down. Yes, I'll just connect them down, and then I'll use my curve to connect that point to the bust point. Okay, so you can see that will give you that beautiful curve for the bust area. So you just connect it that way. The next thing I want to do now, I want to extend a little bit. Do you understand? So for that extension, I'm using 1.5 or 2 inches, depends on how covered you want your chest area to be. So that is what you will use. So I'll connect it that way, and then I'll mark it. So the next thing, I want to tighten that chest area. So I'll use 0.75 for both sides. Okay. And then that 0.75, I am going to connect it, as I'll connect it that way, just to create like a curve. Okay, I'll connect it this way also, so you can see I have beautiful cups already. The next thing I want to do now, I want to take out my full body measurement. So what I will do, I'm just trying to check the dart. I'll measure my bust measurement, as the round bust. I'll divide that into four, and then I'll add that, and then add my stitching allowance. You can decide not to add your stitching allowance here. You can add it also, and then add your dart intake. So make sure you add your dart, so you can see what I'm doing here now. You measure and then add your dart intake, and then add your stitching allowance. That's your bust measurement, your under bust measurement, and your waist measurement, and then your hip measurement. So this is the waist measurement. Okay, so I'll add my 3 inches, because that's my dart, and then I'll come to this point. I'll mark this and then add all of those measurement and stitching allowance. Okay, if you are doing an inseam, you can actually use 1 inch for your stitching allowance. It works fine. So like for this, I actually did an inseam, so I'm connecting everything together, and then the same thing, I want to snatch a little bit. So I'll take the center of that part and then rule a line. So you can see the line is diagonal, it's not straight. So because I don't want my the dart to be that straight, so that's why I did it that way. So you can see I already took out the 1 inch of the extra dart, and then I'm going to cut out this part. Okay, so these are all of my pieces. So you can actually use any bustier pattern for this. That's just the truth. Any bustier pattern that works fine for you, you can use them. So these are all of my patterns laid on my fabric. I added ½ inch all around, and then the length I increased it like by 2 inches. Yes, so these are all of the pieces. So in the next class, I'm going to show you guys how to sew this. So this was what we did at the end of the day. The dress really came out fine. So like I said, if you like this video, please, if you find this video helpful, like the video, share it with your friends and your colleagues. I would really appreciate that. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. I will see you in my next tutorial. God bless you. Bye.